Have you ever had a class with your absolute best friend? Because on the surface, it sounds like the best time ever. Shared notes, secret jokes, easy camaraderie. But let me tell you, it's actually the worst thing ever. It's not because you get distracted. It's because your best friend is the only person on the planet capable of turning a perfectly serious situation into a moment of catastrophic, irreversible, public humiliation. I learned this hard truth when I had a share class with my friend, Leo. One day, Leo showed up to class having done something truly inexplicable. He had shaved his head completely bald. I honestly don't know why. He offered no explanation, and I didn't ask. It was just peak Leo randomness. He simply sat there, looking like a strangely youthful, shiny egg. On that very same day, we were all waiting for our history teacher, Ms. Rodriguez, to arrive. She was unusually late, which immediately put an anxious tension in the room. When she finally hurried in, we knew something was wrong. Her eyes were red-rimmed, and her face was visibly blotchy. She walked straight to her desk, placed her bag down, and her voice cracked as she spoke. "I'm sorry, guys. I know you're probably all wondering what's going on." She paused, struggling to compose herself. "I just got news that my mother passed away." Obviously, that's incredibly tragic news. The room instantly fell into a heavy, respectful silence. We were all teenagers, but we understood the weight of that loss. Everyone was somber. A wave of genuine, heartfelt sympathy washed over the class. Well, almost everyone. After she told us this terrible news, Ms. Rodriguez placed her hands over her face and started crying even more. The sound was heart-wrenching, and I felt a wave of genuine pity and sadness for her. I truly did. But then, my gaze, the curse of having a best friend in the room, betrayed me. I looked over at Leo. He was sitting in the front row, perfectly still, adopting an appropriately respectful, sorrowful expression. But the overhead fluorescent lights of the classroom were shining directly onto his newly, completely bald head. The intense light reflected off his skull, creating a sudden, blinding, ridiculous halo effect. It was a stark contrast, profound, legitimate human tragedy juxtaposed with the singular visual absurdity of a teenager looking like a polished bowling ball under intense illumination. The mental image, the sincerity of the moment shattered by the visual fact of Leo's shiny, tear-inducing head, was too much. I instantly felt that terrible, familiar tightening in my chest, the one that precedes an uncontrollable burst of inappropriate humor. Before I could clamp a hand over my mouth, before I could even stifle the air in my lungs, I laughed out loud. It wasn't a sympathetic, sad sigh. It was a short, sharp, entirely audible bark of laughter. In the midst of Ms. Rodriguez's grief-stricken sobbing, that sound was like a gunshot. She stopped crying instantly. She slowly lifted her tear-streaked face and looked directly at me. Her expression transitioned from deep sorrow to utter, justifiable fury. She must have thought that I was deliberately laughing at her, mocking her devastating loss. "Get out," she hissed, pointing toward the door. "Get out of my classroom right now." I tried to apologize, to explain that it wasn't her. It was the light. It was the ridiculous baldness. It was Leo. But the words failed me. I didn't deserve to get kicked out of class, but I knew my defense would only sound like a further, more elaborate insult. I was exiled, humiliated, and spent the rest of the period wrestling with my own broken sense of humor. It's not my fault my friend suddenly decided to look like an adolescent Walter White during the most tragic moment of our teacher's career. I think there's genuinely something wrong with me. Every time there's an excruciatingly awkward or tragic situation, my brain defaults to an uncontrollable laugh. I still feel terrible about that day. My sincere condolences to Ms. Rodriguez, though. I'm sure your mother was lovely. But for the love of all that is serious, never, ever share a classroom with your best friend.